Well, West African troops have crossed into Gambia's border to secure the arrival of the country's President Barrow from Senegal. A Senegalese army official says the soldiers entered the country to control the strategic points to ensure the safety of the population and to facilitate Barrow's assumption of his role. President Barrow had said that he would return to Gambia once a security sweep is complete. The UN Security Council on Thursday voted on a draft resolution to ensure a transfer of power in the African state. The defeated president flew to Guinea following the decision with an extraordinary set of assurances from the international community. Now turning to London, joined by Mr. Ayo Johnson, African Affairs Analyst. Thank you so much for being with us. Well, is this a successful situation that has taken place? It seems that the transition is in order. Former Gambian president on his way out and the new one in. How do you evaluate it?
Well, I think it's been a huge success for the African Union and ECOWAS. Clearly, we had a very difficult situation in the Gambia. As you just said, a sitting president of Yahya Jammeh, who was asked to leave and he didn't want to do so, and ultimately he had to be pushed out and at the expense, and of course more successfully so, for Mr. Barrow, who's going to take over that reign. Yes, for the African Union at least, it's been no bloodshed, there's been no damage to property or life, and from that perspective it ticks all the boxes. But there's some crucial issues yet to be determined, whether the African Union, as has been shown previously, would go after the Mr. Yahya Jammeh for crimes. Again, he's been there for 22 years worth of enemies, 22 years worth of issues which many international observers would say were not in keeping with those standards. And of course, we've seen previously where presidents like President Charles Taylor of Liberia at the time, when he went into exile in then Nigeria, ultimately he was handed over to the International Criminal Court and is now languishing in a prison. So these are some of the concerns that would be facing Mr. Yahya Jammeh as he leaves the country. All sorts of issues have been said. He might be going to Morocco, others say the Equatorial Guinea. As we know, Equatorial Guinea is not one of the signatories to the International Criminal Court. So that said, he will be very safe.
And prognosis now inside of the country, now that the former president has gone. Do you think that it's going to be a calm transition from basically one administration that was in place for 22 years and now with this new administration coming in?
Well, yes, when you've had an administration that's been in power for so long, you can expect that the fabrics of the society, especially from a governance perspective, are intertwined with that system. So dislodging it, changing it, will be a huge challenge for Mr. Barrow. As we do know, he's not a man with political experience. He himself was not too long ago living in the UK and of course went back as a property developer, and ultimately the opportunities for him leading his country has come. So he would have huge challenges. He would expect to have some good people around him who would help him to usher him through this change.
And are you optimistic with a person, as you said, who does not have experience politically, actually taking the reins of this country after being in the hands of another administration for more than 2 decades?
Well, Gambians have spoken. They've spoken in larger numbers to say they wanted change. 22 years was a time of length which they were not prepared to accept. But we must say, despite the fact that Mr. Yahya Jammeh has the notion, as people would expect and say, that he ruled with an iron fist, Gambia has been pretty quiet, pretty calm. And in fact, that level of tranquility that they've experienced over the last 22 years, be it, as many people will say, with an iron fist, has meant that tourism, which is a huge draw for that country, has been pretty up. Many Westerners have gone to that country to visit in large numbers. And there will be Gambians will be wishing that that continues, if not in the short term, at least in the medium to long term.
All right. Thank you so much for being with us, Mr. Ayo Johnson, African Affairs Analyst out of London.